Hi everyone, it's Evelyn from Twin Flames 3344. I'm having a bit of an Albert Einstein moment today. Wow, that's all I have to say. I'm going to clear the energies first. Hi you guys, hope y'all are doing well. It's April 14th, 2020, and actually yesterday I was getting a bunch of 14s and 41s, the reflections, and I actually wrote down that today's date was important, and now I know why. I'm a bit overwhelmed in the epiphany or download I just got here. So I'm going to present this union read because this is where the download came from. And so there's definitely some technical information about the twins in relation to energy equals MC squared and how this works. So it's important here. And I definitely want to hear some feedback in the comments from those of you who may be more scientifically oriented than myself or math oriented. I'm not a math or science background, although I tend towards the math abilities in school and that kind of thing. So I'm going to get right to it because I want you to understand what came through today because it's very important. So this is the union read for the Divine Masculine and the Divine Feminine Twin Flames. And as we start into this read, which isn't a long read, it will show you how this information came to be, so that's important. Okay, so it's April 14th, 2020, and I will be doing a Divine Masculine read separate from this today, okay? So April 14th, 2020, the 14th is the Temperance card, and the day adds up to the 22, which is the Fool, both very important today. Okay, and also Mary Magdalene is coming up big time, and she's the 6th ray of dogma, of changing dogma into spirituality, and that was very important to come up today in the Jesus and Mary Magdalene templating. And in watching Magenta Pixie, not the dream, the last one she did, but the one before. I think it was the one before, not her dream. But either one, watch Magenta if you haven't seen it yet, Magenta Pixie. She was talking about 3 squares, which also comes into the unfolding of the information that I was going through here today. So this is how important it is when you pick up other people's information. It's just a piece of the puzzle to then further unfold through you. So you can do the same through my information. All right, so this is definitely a big one. So the union energy, this read was finished at 9:30 to 31, and this is the SIRIAN Starseed deck. Let's see, 9 is the Hermit, 30 is the 4 of Wands, the union energy, and the 31 is the 5 of Wands. So the underlying energy over here, this card here, is the indigo. So I'll put that up here so you can see that. Okay, so this is the indigo, the underlying energy for the read. And the final summary card, just so you have a shot of it, is the Seeker of Crystals, or the Page of Pentacles. Okay, this is the ending card, so you can see them. Okay, so we start with the indigo. Okay, the indigo, and then going to the center energy of the read is the 6 of Pentacles, or the 6 of Crystals here. So there's a proposal here to balance and share between the feminine and the masculine. This is the feminine, this is the bridge between them, this is the masculine. 3D, 4D, 5D. The feminine energy coming in and the masculine energy that goes out. The underlying energy up there, and then the summary card here, for those of you who aren't familiar with this read. So the underlying energy going to the center energy here of the read, which is balance, which is beautiful actually, a proposal to balance and share between the feminine and the masculine. The underlying divine feminine energy coming in here is the 4 of Swords and the 4 of Cups and the 9 of Swords, is thinking, meditating, and here it's coming up in salt water, which I've never gotten that before. So to think or meditate in salt water, whether it's in your bath or your shower or in the ocean. An island unto themselves, and this is the feminine energy, in calm, so it can be the feminine within the masculine as well. an island unto themselves in calm and turbulent waters, which is that air, that alternating current or air conditioning, you know, going back and forth between energies, and the 3D and 5D, the masculine and the feminine, and suffering in silence, dealing with being stressed out, not sleeping well, crying or still purging at night. All of those energies are coming up here, and a need for the feminine energy to ground. So there were 3 4s in this read and 3 9s, and yesterday in the Divine Masculine read there were 3 5s and 3 8s. So now today we're in the 4s and 9s, 4 of the stability and manifesting survival, and 9 of the compassion and endings and universal selflessness in this read. So the Divine Masculine, literally, there's a masculine in this card and there's a feminine in this card. Sorry, you can't see that first card. All right, so this is there's a masculine portrayed here and a feminine portrayed in this card behind here, okay? So you can see that card, okay? That's the 5 of Cups. She's got 3 cups over here and the one over there on another rock, so it's hard for her to get to. But it's literally representing the masculine energy still on the beach, right? He's grounded by the salt water. It's calm water. And the feminine in the rough waters, but not grounded. She's out in the middle of the ocean on a rock, okay? So it's just expressing that energy between them. Him on a beach looking out to sea. Her looking up, woe is me. Again, searching the heavens, the feminine. And by the way, this is my piece of art that I've shown you before of the masculine and the feminine. I'll have to show it to you again, but not right now. Literally, when you walk around this piece, the feminine is searching the heavens and the masculine's looking down, feeling sad. So, her looking up, him looking out, him on the beach looking out to the sea, her looking up, woe is me. Again, searching the heavens, and the Divine Masculine trying to figure out where they went wrong. And then Touchstone was coming up, which is the name of the piece I'm telling you about. In the 3D is the Ace of Wands, the Page of Wands, and the Knight of Cups, the 3 cards in front of you. I'm going to turn it back to the center again. The 3D, the Divine Feminine with the new passion or big flame. The Divine Masculine here with the satisfaction of self or with self, bridged by the Page of Wands here, which is literally, this flame can be seen as inside of him or him literally holding his penis, okay, which is literally what's happening here. Her flame is not here. It's become his, part of his energy that he's holding, all right, and she's on her knees. So the Divine Feminine wanting her flame back that he took and willing to give hers to him. So literally bridged by the 2 3Ds, and remember this is 3D, the Divine Feminine is wanting her flame back that he took and is willing to give hers to him voluntarily. And then I was getting, come on baby, light my fire. So that song was coming up. And then the Divine Masculine with this, and Spirit's connecting with me, the Divine Masculine with the 6 rays, you see the 6 rays coming down, again parallels Mary Magdalene and Jesus, and raising dogma into spirituality and enlightenment. That she, the feminine, is not happy without the Divine Masculine or the Mary Magdalene and the Jesus energy, okay? So the 4D energy here is the Tower, the 6 of Pentacles, and then the 4 of Pentacles. This is the Divine Masculine's heart in the Batcave. And of course, this is the tower of all of the fires that need to be put out and the lightning that's striking, coming in, that needs to be transmuted, right? And it's also the epiphanies and downloads that are coming in for the feminine. The Divine Feminine epiphanies and transmutation, and the Divine Masculine staying warm in his heart in the Batcave, bridged by sharing and balance, equality, respect for each other. That's in the 4D. In the 5D, we have the Queen of Pentacles, the 5 of Crystals. They're crystals in this deck. So Sage of Crystals is the Queen, 5 of Crystals, and then the 6 of Flames for the masculine. The Divine Feminine Queen of Pentacles grounding, her groundingness is dissipating quickly now because she's in need of sun. She needs the recharge. The Divine Masculine gets attention on the journey with good news and success in leading the way in the 5D here. They are bridged in the 5D by the Mary Magdalene cave. Okay, this is the Mary Magdalene cave, right? She's up here above in a cave with some scattered crystals on the ground here. And down below is a secret group where they're, they've gathered, but they've left her out, but she's at a higher elevation. But it's also cold and dark in there. But in the 5D, that's fine, because that's 5D. So bridged by this Mary Magdalene cave, and you notice, I always write MM for Mary Magdalene, and then M and M's, M and M is literally Mary Magdalene and Jesus, because N for me is code Jesus. So M&Ms, you can always think of that now as Mary Magdalene and Jesus together. And that's why they taste so good and are so much fun to eat. All right, so the masculine on the journey, leading the way, being seen as the flame in the 5D, the good news, and bridging by the Mary Magdalene cave, which is coming up as Akashic Records, going into your Akashic Records in meditation, the library, the dark, the cold, the refrigerator car, the preserves, the thing that makes things last, right? The coldness. As the Divine Feminine uses up her 5D energy, manifesting, manifesting, and staying grounded, the Divine Masculine gets it, the journey. The Divine Feminine's 3D flame has connected to, her 3D flame has connected here. Her 3D flame is connected to his 5D leadership. The one flame at the helm, you see that, and the guiding 5 others in expansion of the 6 rays of the Mary Magdalene energy in the 3D. So this is the masculine learning. He's getting it now, like, because now he is in his 5D over the 3D people he's working with, and now is understanding the energy and the process, because now he's separated himself from other people in that sense. All right, so he's at the helm guiding 5 others in expansion in the 5D of the 6 rays here of dogma into spirituality, and bridging the gap, the feminine and the masculine in 5D, by storing things on ice, right? Not being so hot or hot-tempered all the time, conserving energy to make it last longer. The dark and the cold has a purpose, you see, and then I was getting Abraham when I said that. The dark and the cold has a purpose, you see. It's not just about the heat and the fire. It's about the cold as well, the balance in it. So the Divine Feminine, as soon as I went to start with the Divine Feminine column, that's where I went on a tangent, because they guided me back to when I was talking about Mao Zedong yesterday, because I forgot to write something down, so I did right next to his name. And then I was noticing that Mao Zedong, his initials are MTT, which is like M Pi or M temper tantrum, okay? So then, of course, MC squared was coming up, and this was at 1022. 1022 is the Wheel of Fortune and the Fool. This is the Fool's Journey. So yeah, there was the numbers that I usually graph out for each union read. I forgot to put in there yesterday, and that's why I went back there to do that. And I ended up right next to Mao Zedong's name and saw his initials MTT, which is M Pi, or M. Mao Zedong literally was a little boy having temper tantrums. That was the first reference here. Because he's not MC squared, right? He's missing the C, right? Because the TT is like a square, the pi, but he's missing the C and the MC squared. So that's where E equals MC squared came up here, which is the theory of mass energy equivalence from Einstein. Okay. So, and by the way, I have a lot of references to Einstein. I've told you this before. My daughter's born on 3/14, and my father worked at Albert Einstein Hospital for 22 years, and that's 22 is the Fool. So it's really funny how that comes up. And we definitely have genius in my family. My uncle, my mom's brother is a genius for sure. He's still doing it. He was at Princeton and he's still working over there. I don't know. He's 90 years old and he's still driving around. I don't know if he should be, but he's a math science genius. So E equals MC squared. I should actually present this to him. The theory of mass energy equivalence by Einstein, where energy is ergs equals mass in grams times the small c, which is the speed of light, in centimeters per second squared. So here's your lesson, children. And this is from sciencing.com. The definitions here. So that is the theory. That is the equation. And it shows that the energy stored in even a small amount of mass is enormous. And we were just talking about storing energy. I was talking about storing energy yesterday. And today it's coming up in the refrigeration of the coldness of the Divine Feminine, or the Mary Magdalene cave, that it's a necessity, right? Even talking about the cold showers in that Goop episode of the guy who jumps into the freezing cold water, because it makes your life last longer, preserves your body. That's why they suggest you should take cold showers, or at least end your shower in cold, because it puts your body into that preserved state. Okay, so again, it showed this equation shows that the energy stored in even a small amount of mass is enormous. So then it goes on to fusion. The definitions, again, further explaining the equation. And again, this is sciencing.com. So fusion, or the coming together of something, is one way for energy to be released. It is for the atoms that make up the mass to fuse together. And the example they gave had to do with hydrogen. And my phone my landline is ringing in the other room, and it never rings this much. It just stopped when I brought it up, you notice. It was ringing a lot. So there's a reason for that, because this is very important information. So the example they brought up here was around hydrogen, I think I said. So one way for energy to be released is for the atoms that make up the mass to fuse together. And the example being, within a star, 2 atoms of hydrogen can be propelled together at such a great speed that the single protons in their nuclei fuse together to form a helium atom with 2 protons. The process turns about 7% of the original mass into energy. And it was referencing, for me, I was getting the download right there about Sirius B, which is a dwarf planet. It's very dense, but it packs a big wallop, right? There's less mass there, but it's got a lot of energy and weight density in it. It's holding a lot of power. So anyway, there was they were paralleling that for me. So when the two come together, there is a loss of mass. It's saying that 7% of the original mass turns into energy. So again, the E equals mc squared, like nuclear fusion. So it's like particle accelerators and nuclear bombs. That's your example of fusion. So literally, twins coming together, they were showing me, is nuclear fusion, and it parallels to that. So then they define fission. So another way to release the energy is for atoms within to come apart, so the opposite. The example is uranium and radioactive element, or the falling apart. Does it sound familiar? The coming together and the falling apart. So the falling apart, there are 92 protons in its nucleus here in uranium, okay? So 92 is the reflection of 29, which is the present moment, being in the vortex, in the 0 point, right? Being present. And 92 is the reflection of that, right? So not being in the moment. So this is the falling apart phase. The not being in the moment as to the coming together is the 29 of the being present at the 0 point in the vortex. So the 92 protons in its nucleus all are positively charged and trying to get away from each other, similar to 2 magnets with the same polarity, repelling each other. When uranium atoms lose protons, they become other elements. When you add up the weight of the new nucleus with that of the ejected protons, they become lighter than the original uranium atom. They lost mass, but they turned into energy. And so think about this and parallel this to your body going from 3D to 5D, right? You're losing mass but gaining energy, more light. This is why radioactive elements release heat and light, nuclear fission. And again, by E equals mc squared. So then they define matter and antimatter. And here, protons and electrons of the universe are or have a mirror image or cousins called antiprotons or positrons for the electrons. And these particles have the same mass but opposite electrical charges. So when a normal particle collides with its antimatter twin or its divine feminine, their divine feminine twin, they wipe each other out, turning all of their mass into energy. So it's not really gone, it's just converted to energy. Because the E equals mc squared, the energy release is enormous. Okay? So fortunately, our universe has very little antimatter, making these collisions rare, which is all about the twins coming together. All right, so how does this happen? If they're the twins and they annihilate each other when they come together, how is that the twins? Well, this is where Evelyn comes into play today. And this is the downloads I was getting. So then the theory of relativity was also coming up from Einstein. And again, 314 was coming up. And I was also getting, when talking about the electrons and protons and their twins, the antiprotons or anti-electrons, which are positrons, I was getting there are two separate sets of twins, electric twins and magnetic twins. Not the electric with the magnetic, but a set of electric twins and a set of magnetic twins, all right? So there's different energies between two sets of twins. So the theory of relativity was coming up, special and general, the absence of gravity and with gravity, right? So the special ones are in absence of gravity, the theory of relativity, like looking out into space and seeing that two planets look the same size, but they're not because one's much farther out. But remember that you're standing still in one spot. So does that still apply when you're moving and relativity to those planets out there and where their positions are? So measurements of various quantities are relative to velocities of the observers. So it has to do with the distance and relationship based on being still or a moving object. So in particular, space and time can, did I write dilate? No, that's not what it was. Well, any which way, you get the idea. So it's talking about the speed of light within a vacuum, because it's the same no matter the speed at which the observer travels. So in the vortex, when you're standing still or if you're moving, it doesn't matter because the speed of light is still the same. So whether you're standing still or you're moving, the speed of light will still be the same. So the amount of light in your body is able to handle it better, having that light, right? So 3D people can't handle a lot of light in their body because it's too dense down here. But in a vacuum, they can, or in other words, in 5D, in 0 point in the vortex, we can handle more light. Space and time are interwoven here. So proton and the antiproton, that was discovered in 1955 by Emilio Segre and Owen Chamberlain, who won the Nobel Prize there. And so when the proton and antiproton collide, they annihilate each other and turn into photon. So they annihilate each other in a violent outburst. It's a magnetic moment. And so how can they come together? Through two protons and one antiproton, or in other words, the third energy. Quantum parameters. And I don't have any science or math background, so these are all coming in with my downloads, all right? I'm just taking the already defined information from Einstein and then using my downloads to explain to you how they're showing me this expands into the twins and how it defines the twins. So the proton and antiproton can be one set, like I said, but there can also be an electron and a positron twin as well. So it would be the same thing, but they're just using the proton and antiproton as an example here. And this is the Nobel Prize had to do with the proton and antiproton specifically here. But they annihilate each other and become the photon or all light in that magnetic moment. So how can they come together? Through two protons and one antiproton, or the third energy. So instead of one proton and one antiproton, which would annihilate each other and disappear, the quantum parameters here, that if matter and antimatter annihilate themselves and the universe still exists because there's more it's because there's more matter than antimatter, just like it's the law of our nature in the 3D that we have more alkaline than acid in our bodies, right? We always stay a little bit above the middle, a little bit more light than dark, more alkaline than acid, okay? And it works in all of the main systems of humanity that way. And so some of this information here was coming from zmescience.com. So my energy here, I was getting the annihilation then isn't actually an annihilation because it's just changing form. It's going from mass into energy. So it's not really gone. It's just annihilation is equaling for the twins expansion, which equals form changing and growing with slightly more proton. It stabilizes with constant focus, intent in your now moment, okay? So instead of exploding, we are not fully exploding because we're increasing our light now. We receive more light into our bodies. So instead of going into annihilation, we've come together in our third energy, which is the antimatter. And so the two protons, the masculine and the feminine, ground the antimatter since they can't be one-on-one because they disappear completely. So if we're staying in 3D, we can't disappear completely. We need two protons to the one antiproton, which is the third energy. But it's just related to, the annihilation is related to the expansion energy, right? It becomes more than it was to begin with. Equals the form, the mass changes and grows. It expands with the energy. With slightly more proton, it stabilizes along with the constant focus or intent of the now moment. All right, so this is all me and my stuff here. So at 11:29, which is the Justice and the 29 of, again, the 3 of Wands being present in the moment, the vortex, the 0 point. So the two protons must, in the twin energy and how that relates to the twins, the two protons coming together, remember they have to smash into each other to become one. So maybe that's the key. You have to literally like bump into each other. But the process with the twins is that you have to keep bumping into each other to let off the energy, because when they come together, the two protons, there's this huge release of energy each time. So in order to calm down the third energy that's between them once they've met, right, that initial meet is when the third energy comes in, because you've elevated your vibration enough to actually realize that you have the same etheric body, okay? And then all of a sudden the energy expands and it's like, wow, like you have this initial expansion and excitement about it, and then the drop, just like a sugar drop, right? What goes up must come down. So these bumps of the twins where we have to keep coming back together is in order to release some of the energy, like in an overexpanded balloon that you need to bring down just a little bit, to allow for fusion. So the two protons must bump and part slowly, or meditate, because that allows you to bring more light into you, to allow for the fusion, for the twins to come together with the third energy, or in other words, the antimatter that's involved in the situation. Because when the antimatter comes together with one proton, you lose 7% of your mass. It becomes energy. And that is the energy between you, why you become so illuminated. You're becoming more 5D. So less mass, but densely power-packed with energy, like Sirius B is what they're paralleling for me. And again, E equals MC squared, which is coming up in a couple different ways, as the karmic equaling the Mary Magdalene and the Christ vibration exponentially, which is the Christ consciousness, the collective, the universe. So the karmic energy, or the 3D energy, right? The karmic represents the world, right? Because there's the antimatter, they said, is very rare in this 3D world. The twins are involved with the antimatter, which is very rare, but the karmic energy is the rest of the world, the 3D world. So the karmic equals the Mary Magdalene plus the Christ energy exponentially, which is the Christ consciousness, plus the mother, or the Mary Magdalene energy in the 3D. So the third energy equals 1 part Mary Magdalene, or the mother energy, because Mother Mary and Mary Magdalene come from the same energy, okay? So the third energy equals the mother, or Mary Magdalene, times the Christ squared, is exponential, Christ consciousness. So in other words, the Holy Trinity, and then this was paralleling with the 3 squares that Magenta was coming up with yesterday. And I'm taking that one step further, because if you turn the squares instead of a quarter turn, which came up for me this past week, I brought that up in one of my reads about the H taking a quarter turn becomes the I. And then this comes back up here. If you take the square and do an 8th turn, it becomes the diamond. Okay, so it's the same thing, it's just the perspective. So 1 part antimatter and 2 parts matter, or the divine masculine, or the 3 diamond light, the square in a quarter turn. So then the H was coming up again, and the H on its side is the capital letter I, and then the H upright again, and I was getting tumbling, just like you would tumble stones, and we've been talking about crystals all week. And then it's coming up as the 3 sets of twins, because the square or the diamond is 2 triangles, which are each a monad, reflecting the feminine and the masculine sets of twins and soulmates, right? So this is where I want to show you, which I will in a second. So there is 1 set of twins for every 5 sets of soulmates in the monad, okay? So we take a quarter turn, the H to the I, and remember the H is 2 4s put together, like someone sitting on someone's lap. You perfectly fit together, the 4 and the 4. And the I is the same thing, it's just turned on its side, the I am presence, right? So it's saying you 2 fused together are the same as the I am presence. The quarter turn seals the deal, just like turning a faucet on or off. It seals the deal. It locks it in. 3 sets of 2 twins equals 6, the lovers, and 15 sets of soulmates, which equals 30, and the 2 together equal 36, which is Atlas, the weight of the world upon your shoulders. Okay, so this is the 2 monads together. So there's 3 individual twins per 15 soulmate individuals, which is 18 feminines and 18 masculines, becoming the 36 of the Atlas, the weight of the world upon their shoulders, the twins and the very high soulmates here. So 18 and 18 equals 36. So now we're referencing 2 feminines. If the masculine has 2 18s in his life, the karmic and the divine feminine, that equals 36, which is the weight of the world upon his shoulders, the Atlas. Why it's such a burden to him? Because the feminine is the antimatter energy, and so that overweighs, 2 antimatters he can't handle. So if he's with a karmic energy, he certainly can't handle another feminine, because that's the antimatter energy with the 3rd energy involved. It's 2 moons equaling Atlas at the weight of the world upon their shoulder. So 18 and 18 equals 36. So the divine feminine in antimatter with the 3rd energy, the karmic makes it harder to come together with the divine masculine due to the combustion of the 3rd energy, because the other feminine's presence, there's still more antimatter there. So the divine feminine with the 18 and the divine masculine being the 19 of the sun, then when it's just one-on-one, the 18 plus the 19 equals 37, which is the King of Cups, or unconditional love. So notice that as we lose mass and gain light, it has to do with gravity, but also with the 5D. As we get more into 5D and become lighter and less mass, there's less gravity, there's less weight of the world, so we can carry a lot more without feeling it. Okay, so I'm going to review the picture of this too, so you can see it in a visual way. Because the 3 diamonds, the 3 squares that Magenta was talking about, were showing me 3 diamonds, and then I already did a technical drawing on my 3 diamonds, because the 3 diamonds connected references the vein and the valves in the vein, and how the valves, push you up to the next level. Okay, and I can show that technical drawing again too in another installment. So back to the divine feminine. The divine feminine here, in this column here, we start with the Ace of Wands. The divine feminine with her new passion is ignited by the 4D huge epiphanies and the 5D lightness, or in other words, losing mass. And literally, you see in this card, she's literally losing mass, because you see how the coin is fading away? So they are so literal in the way that they give you these messages. So the 5D lightness, or in other words, losing mass of the pentacle, and this is the spirit confirming that pentacles are mass. Okay, so the flame is more about energy and movement and physical way, but the coin is the mass, okay, of the human body. So the bridge here is the 3D Page of Wands, masked boy in front of you, with a flaming desire worshipped by only one. This is how they bridge together. He's pleased with himself that he stole Mary Magdalene's flame. So what do little kids do? The little boy steals from the girl he likes. He's pleased with himself he stole Mary Magdalene's flame and won't give it back. So she is on her knees explaining why he needs to give it back to her. That he's too much masculine and he can't handle it on his own yet. He's not ready, right? Because there's too much divine feminine in it. That he must balance and share first and be put on ice or take a cold shower or elevate to the 5D. The divine masculine here is the 9 of Cups, happy with himself getting his wish, the 4D in the bat cave being warm and getting warmer in 5D with the 6 of Flames, and in need of cooling down, or in other words, conserving their energy, right? Going into energy storage, using the cold energy to conserve his energy as opposed to letting it out there. So in other words, a cold shower, okay? So the masculine energy going out here now, all right, so we have the 9 of Pentacles, we have the 2 of Swords or Orbs, and then we have the 8 of Flames or fire. So the sovereign there with crystals, she's got everything that she needs except for the one person to share those crystals with, is floating on air. Or in other words, EE squared. Sharing energy exchange, because EE is energy exchange for me, but it's also representative of the divine feminine. And then we have the energy exchange floating on air, and then here is the energy exchange again, the arrows of love, or in other words, E equals MC squared, only it's EE of the divine feminine and energy exchange of the third energy equals the MM, Mary Magdalene, lower C of the Christ consciousness to the 2-2, which is the fool's journey, the 22, the fresh new start, the leap of faith. The divine feminine or the high vibe third energy in energy exchange equals Mary Magdalene and the Christ consciousness to the fool's journey. The summary being the Page of Pentacles in discovering our abilities, students of the indigo. So again, referencing from the beginning of the read, the indigo to the balance of sharing her magic, because the feminine's coming up in here as the indigo or the magician in her inner child, sharing those abilities as well as teaching to those masculines willing to learn, okay? And the masculine has been showing his curiosity about wanting to learn his abilities more this week. So the divine feminine is sharing her magic with the divine masculine, who is now discovering his abilities even more so. So I have to show you a picture because there's more information here a little bit. All right, so sorry, it's just on a... Actually, I'm going to pick up my iPad so you can see this better, so I don't have to hold the piece of paper, okay? That'll make it a little bit easier for you to see as well. So just bear with me. Okay, I'm just going to turn it towards me a little bit. So I wrote everything down in a picture so you could relate to it a little bit better. So you see Evie's theory of relative equivalence at the top, and this was from today, my epiphany today, which adds up to the 22, which is the fool's journey. And this first information started at 10:22. So you see all the parallels there? So it started with Mao Zedong, the MTT, Mao's tantrum as a little boy, because that's how he acted, misusing people as his toys, missing the C, the lower C, in the square. And then I'm showing you the pictures of fusion, what it means. So you see the masculine and feminine going very fast towards each other as protons. See the little proton circles in the middle? Two people who come together in fusion as two protons lose 7% of the mass but gain energy together. So they have one proton now merged. Let me focus it a little bit better. They have one proton merged, but they're still in two separate physical bodies, but see all the energy that's now around them because of the 7% that each body lost. Okay? So the example of fission here was uranium, and that's the falling apart, where two magnets repel of the same polarity. 92 protons in the nucleus charge, trying to escape. They have a positive charge there, okay? So this is like a group of friends or family, whatever, who are bored of each other, right? They're all in the same polarity. 92 protons in a positive charged nucleus trying to escape from each other. A group of friends bored of each other. Charge, so perhaps going out shopping or just charging free to break out and become their authentic self. becoming lighter, or in other words, the 5D, losing mass, but gaining energy. Okay, so the two protons meet the 1/3 energy, the antiproton and the which is the antimatter, over and over and over again. They keep bumping into each other to release the energy, losing mass, but gaining energy stores like Sirius B, but also the light energy that's being downloaded to us. E equals mc squared. The third energy equals the Mother or Mary Magdalene energy times the Christ exponentially, the Trinity squared, which then brings in the squares of the 1 part divine feminine antimatter and the 2 parts divine masculine matter, which is just the human body's representation, becomes the 3-diamond light, which is the square, the 3 squares, in an 8th turn. And you notice 8 has to do with the dance of the twins, whereas the quarter turn is 3D. Look at the 3D. The 8 is the 5D, which I brought up before. Not real recently, but that is something I brought up before. So the 4/4 is an 8, but the 4/4 is the 3D version, and the 8 is the 5D dance. Okay, it's the version there. So we have that 8th turn. So we go to the square here, and we have the 3 diamonds that Magenta was talking about, and I was getting the quarter turn first, taking the quarter turn. So quarter was coming up this week in a read. So literally the H is the 8, it's 2 4s, and the I is the same thing, turned a quarter. So we have a quarter turn, which is also tumbling, they're referencing, as the square. So in order to reference the H and the I into a square, you literally make the H and the I into a square, which then becomes the gift, all right, with the proton in the middle that's combined. And then the third one is, and then the third one is combining the infinities for each feminine and masculine. And then finally, the gift with the divine masculine and feminine's infinity, the 8s, in addition to the third energy 8, which then you see is a 6-petaled flower, which is the flower of life, the gift of the now moment. All right, so the combined divine feminine infinity, and that proton is the dot in the middle, and then the divine masculine infinity, and then the flower of life with the third energy. So then we come back to this diagram that looks very much like the diagram I made already, the technical one, of instead of 3 squares, just turning them an 1/8 of the way, becoming the diamond of the masculine, and the feminine, which is the matter, and the antimatter, which is the masculine, the feminine, and the third energy. The 3 diamond, or the vein, right, where each of those diamonds is a valve and a vein. It's the same thing if you just made them rounded instead of pointed, okay? Because the points aren't really ends, they're all open because we're all energy. All right, so then the diamond becomes, again, the 2 monads of the masculine and the feminine, where the peak is the divine feminine masculine twins, and the rest of the monad are soulmates. So monads of soulmates, one twin set and 5 soulmates, or 6 twins and 30 soulmates for the 3 diamonds, equals that 36 that I referenced for you. All right, so 3 twins and 15 sets of soulmates, or 18 individuals and 36 sets of twins and soulmates are in like a relationship with each other. So the 18 plus 18 equals 36 of the weight of the world. The 2 moons of the karmic, making it harder for the feminine to come together because the masculine can't handle that much antimatter with the third energy present. So then they become, as they keep bumping into each other and releasing more and more mass to become light, they become the 18 and the 19 of the sun and the moon, which equals 37, the unconditional love. And that would be then 5D, because you're lighter, you're less mass and more light. Okay? So I hope you get that. Please let me know if you have questions below. For me, this was huge, so if you have anything to add, please do. And I'm going to let you go now. Rise and be loved. Bye.